Hello, this is Shay Jackson with Hype Math. In today's video, we will be reviewing for the 2022 Texas STAAR Math Test for 4th graders. Our concept is comparing and ordering whole numbers and decimals. This is part 2. Remember, 4th graders, believe you can and you will. Do you need a math or reading tutor? We offer virtual one-on-one or group tutoring for 2nd to 8th graders. There will be a link in the description box so that you can request your free 30-minute consultation today. We also have our 4th grade math review workbook and also our 4th grade reading review workbook as well that is available for purchase in our store. Now, our 4th grade reading review book release is January 28th, but you can pre-order your workbook today. Again, the link will be in the description box. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell so that you will be alerted to new videos we upload. So let's review how to order whole numbers. And we did talk about it in part 1, but we want to go over it again just to make sure you have this concept solidified and a good foundation. Whenever we are ordering whole numbers, first, we need to write the numbers and line up the place values, especially with decimals. Make sure those decimals are lined up straight, 4th graders, to make sure that when you are looking at the numbers that you have them in the correct place value. Step 2, begin at the far left side to compare your digits of the same place value. Now, if the numbers are the same in the place values, what you need to do is continue to the right until you compare different numbers. And don't worry, we do have an example. After that, write down the numbers according to the directions. Now, the directions may tell you to order the numbers from least to greatest or greatest to least. Another way of saying it is from least to greatest is the smallest number to the biggest number, or if it says greatest to least, that means the biggest number to the smallest number. It's very, very important that you pay attention to the directions and what it's telling you to do in order to order your numbers. Let's look at an example. Here we see 4 numbers, and our directions tell us to order the numbers from greatest to least. We have 9,245, 6,082, 8,970, 5,329. What do we say our first step is? We need to write the numbers and line up the place values. And if you notice, we have them all lined up. The next thing we need to do is we need to begin at the far left side to compare the digits just to see what the digits are and also if they have the same place value. Well, in this example, it doesn't, so we can skip step 3. Let's move to step 4. For step 4, since our directions told us to order the numbers from greatest to least, we're looking at our place value chart. We're focused in on the ones placed in the thousands place, okay? We're in the thousands place, but in the thousands, because you know there's hundreds, tens, and ones for the thousands place, our focus is on the ones. We see that there's a 9 for 9,245. There's a 6 for 6,082, an 8 for 8,970, and a 5 for 5,329. Now, since we are ordering from greatest to least, what we need to target in on is asking ourselves, well, what's the greatest or the biggest number between 9, 6, 8, and 5? And you guessed it, it's 9, okay? So now that we know that our first number in our list is 9,245, we're going to ask ourselves, okay, what's the second greatest number after that? And it is the 8. So 8,970 is the second number in our list. Now, all we're left with is 6,082 and 5,329. The greatest number between those two is the 6. So 6,082 is the third number in our list. And our least number, or the smallest number in the list, is 5,329. So our numbers ordered from greatest to least are 9,245, 8,970, 6,082, and 5,329. Let's dive into our problem. So number 10, and again, remember, these questions are in our 4th grade math review workbook, and it is available for purchase in our store. The link is in the description box. The distances in meters that 4 students jumped are modeled below. Which list shows these distances in order from greatest to least? Okay, and we see we have Marisol, we have Benito, Otis, and Angie. Let's look at our answer choices. We see in meters 1.46 meters, I'm on F, 1.46 meters, 1.5 meters, 1.4 meters, and 1.63 meters. For G, it's 1.63 meters, 1.46 meters, 1.5 meters, and 1.4 meters. For H, it's 1.4 meters, 1.46 meters, 1.5 meters, and 1.63 meters. Lastly, we have for J, 1.63 meters, 1.5 meters, 1.46 meters, and 1.4 meters. Now, when we're solving problems, our first question that we need to immediately ask ourselves, very, very important question, is what are we looking for? Okay? And you can know what you're looking for whenever you look in your word problem. Look for the sentence that has a question mark. So what we're looking for is the list that shows the distances in order from greatest to least. The second most important question is, what information can help us find the answer? Because now that we know what we're going to look for, sometimes in problems, there'll be a lot of information that we don't need. So what we want to do is focus on the information that is important to us and helping us find the correct answer. We are looking for the students' distances, and we have them here. So let's take a look at our place value blocks. Now, one thing that I will say is the information, the place value blocks, do we really need them to solve the problem? Honestly, we don't. Why do you say that, Miss Jackson? Well, because we know the numbers. Even though those place value blocks are modeled there, we've been given the number, so all we could do is just line up our numbers with the correct place values to order them from greatest to least. Okay, that's one thing Miss Jackson wants to tell you, because we're going to take a look and we are going to look at what the different values are, because I believe it's important for us to walk through that. But I do want to say we could have just looked at the numbers, solved this problem, and moved on. Okay, but we need to look at the place value charts so that you will be fully aware and know what the values are. Okay, so let's take Marisol first. Well, before we do that, let's do this. We see with Marisol, Benito, Otis, and Angie, they all have blocks, but some of the blocks look different. Some have a 100 block, and then like Marisol and Angie, they have 100 blocks to represent their values. But Benito and Otis, they have tens blocks. One thing that I will say is there is not a difference too much when it comes to the fully shaded blocks, because even though Marisol and Angie have a hundreds block and Benito and Otis have a tens block, that first block that's color coded is fully shaded in, that they both represents one. They both represent one, okay? Not they both. They all represent one, okay? So we know that Marisol, Benito, Otis, and Angie have fully colored blocks, whether it's a 100 block or a tens block, that represents one. Why is that? Because it's fully shaded. What we need to laser focus in on are the blocks that are partially shaded. So let's take a look at Marisol. Okay, we see that it's a 100s block, okay? Now, what we need to do is we need to count the number of fully shaded rows. Fully shaded columns, I apologize. Fully shaded columns. And Marisol has 1, 2, let me see if my arrow can go over it. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see this. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is 6 fully shaded columns. And then 1 in the next block, in the next column, there are only 1, 2, 3 shaded. And so that represents 1 and 63 meters, or 1 and 63 hundredths meters. Okay. Now let's look at Benito. Again, even though Benito has a tens block, the first one that's fully shaded, we know that represents the whole number 1. Now, when we move to that second tens block, we've already said that it's partially shaded, but we want to count the number of columns that are fully shaded so that we know what number we need to write in decimal form. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Since there are 5 columns in the tens block that are shaded, Benito's distance is 1.5 meters, or 1 and 5/10 meters. Now let's move to Otis, okay? Otis has a fully shaded tens block. We know that represents 1. Now let's move to his second block. In his second tens block, we're going to count the fully shaded columns. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 columns shaded, and that is why Otis's distance is 1.4 meters, or 1 and 4/10. Now let's move to Angie. Angie has 1 fully shaded 100s block. So now what we're going to focus on is the number of fully shaded columns for the second 100 block, and then count how many blocks are in the next column. So fully shaded, she has 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? And then we need to count the blocks, because you see this column isn't fully shaded, it's partial. So let's count these blocks. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Angie's distance is 1.46 meters, or 1 and 46 hundredths meters, okay? That's the information that we need. And again, I'll say that did we need to look at the tens and hundreds blocks to get our values? We didn't, but Miss Jackson wanted to go over it so that you could understand what those values are, okay? Now, the next question we need to ask ourselves is, how do we solve this problem? The way that we solve this problem is we need to compare and order our decimals, okay? And again, remember, we need them ordered from greatest to least. So let's take a look. We said whenever we compare and order decimals, the first thing we need to do is we need to write down all of our values in the same place value. And since we have a decimal, if you notice, our decimals are lined up in a straight line neatly. Why is that important? Because if you have your decimals everywhere, the numbers will not match the same place value, and then you may not get the answer correct. All right. So we just put them in order from left to right, and we have 1.63 meters, 1.50 meters, 1.40 meters, and 1.46 meters. Now, we said the second step is after we've lined them up in the same place value, we're going to start at our far left in order to compare our numbers. Now, if step 3, the numbers are the same, which yes, that is correct, in the ones place, all of the numbers have a 1, we need to move to the immediate right at the second place value that's to the right, and that is the tenths place. Okay, and in the tenths place we have a 6, a 5, and 2 4s. Now, one thing that I want to point out is if you notice that I put zeros for 1.50 and 1.40. And you may be saying, Miss Jackson, well, why did you do that? In order for us to compare our numbers, if you notice, the reason that I put it, we have a 1.4 and then we have a 1.46. Well, just so that you understand how or the way that we compare the numbers, we need to put our placeholder there. So whenever you have decimals and there's one number that seems to have more decimal place values filled in than the other, the only thing you need to do is just put zeros, okay? It does not change the value of that number. So, since we're ordering our list from greatest to least, the first number we're going to look at is, okay, what's the largest number? That will be the greatest number, and that is the 6. So 6, 1.63 or 1 and 63/100 meters is our first number in our list because it's the largest or the greatest number. Now we need to find the second greatest number, and that is 1.5 or 1.1 and 5/10, okay, meters. That is second. Why is that? Because 5 is the second largest number. Now, the only thing that we have left to compare is the 1.40 and the 1.46. Now, since both of the numbers have a 4 in the tenths place, what do I need to do? We're going right back to step 3. We said we need to move over to the right so that we can keep moving until we have different numbers. Now, in the hundredths place with a THS at the end, there is a 0 and there is a 6. So I have to ask myself, okay, what is the larger number between 0 and 6? Well, it's a 6, right? So 1 and 46/100 is my third number, and my least number or my last number is 1.4, okay? So my list is 1.63, 1.45, 1.46 is third, and 1.4 meters is least. Okay, so how or what is the correct answer? All right, Miss Jackson has some technical difficulties. She's back. I had to straighten up my slide. I don't know what happened, but we're back. So in order for us to find the correct answer, we know what our list is from greatest to least. Now we can look at our answer choices to determine what is the correct answer. And one thing that I will say, fourth graders, is whenever you're solving problems and it's multiple choice, it's a good idea to first solve the problem by yourself. Because if you notice, we've been solving the problem by ourselves. We haven't been looking at, oh, okay, well, what does the answer choice say? Well, what could be the correct answer? All we're focusing on is solving the problem for ourselves. Once we do that, then we can look at the answer choices. That increases your chance of getting the answer correct. Because if you're just trying to look at the answer choices to just try to figure out the answer, it can sometimes get confusing or overwhelming. And sometimes students will just choose anything, and unfortunately, they will not get the answer correct, okay? So solve the problem first by yourself and then compare the answers, which is where we are now. So looking at our list of answer choices and looking at our greatest to least list, what are we going to say is the correct answer? If you said J, you are absolutely correct, because J shows that the greatest to least numbers or values are 1.63 meters, then 1.5 meters, then 1.46 meters, and then 1.4 meters. And that is the last problem in our workbook in our section of comparing and ordering numbers. Remember, if you need a tutor, we have a link in the description box so that you can sign up for your free 30-minute consultation. And also, we have a fourth grade math review workbook as well as a fourth grade reading review workbook. This is Shay Jackson. I will talk to you later.